When discoveries caused excitement in the world of scientists and researchers, and rightly so. Get ready for some of the most spectacular finds of modern times, too incredible to be true. Are you fascinated by mysterious things and archaeological discoveries? Then show us with a thumbs up, subscribe to Hidden Worlds, and join us on our journey. Bloody snow. It's summer in Antarctica, which means record-breaking temperatures, unstoppable glacial melt, and a bit of blood-red snow speckled across the Antarctic Peninsula. In recent weeks, the ice around Ukraine's Vernadsky research base has been covered with what researchers call blood snow, red and pink streaks that stretch across the glacier's edges and pile up on the frosty plains. The supposed blood is actually a type of red pigmented algae that hides in snowfields and mountains worldwide. The algae thrives in frozen water and spends the winter dormant in snow and ice. When summer comes and the snow melts, the algae blooms and spreads red, flower-like spores. This phenomenon, noted by Aristotle as early as the 3rd century BC, is known as blood snow. The red color of the phenomenon comes from carotenoids, the same pigments that turn pumpkins and carrots orange in the chloroplasts of the algae. In addition to their crimson color, these pigments also absorb heat and protect the algae from ultraviolet light, allowing the organisms to bask in the nutrients of the summer sun without risking genetic mutations. When whales die. When whales die and sink, their carcasses, known as whale falls, provide an abundance of nutrients for deep-sea creatures. During a 2019 expedition, researchers discovered a whale fall at a depth of 10,623 feet below the surface near Davidson Seamount in NWOA's Monterey Bay National Marine Sanctuary. The ocean's depths are fed by nutrients that fall from the water's surface. When whales die and sink, the whale carcasses, or whale falls, provide a sudden concentrated source of food and a bonanza for organisms in the deep ocean. Various stages of decomposition of a whale carcass support a succession of marine communities. Scavengers consume the soft tissue within a few months. Organic fragments or detritus enrich nearby sediments for over a year. The whale skeleton can support diverse communities for years to decades, both as hard substrate for invertebrate colonization and as a source of sulfides from the decay of organic compounds of whale bones. Microbes thrive on the energy released from these chemical reactions and form the basis of ecosystems as long as the food source continues. Stone Age dog. Archaeologists have discovered the more than 8,400-year-old remains of a dog at a Stone Age burial site in Sweden. The dog was buried with human remains as grave goods, valuable or sentimental objects that the living leave with the dead. A veterinary osteologist examined the bones but determined that there was no comparable modern dog that looked like a powerful greyhound. The settlement, originally built near the coast, was swallowed up by the rising sea levels that layered sand and mud over the remains, preserving the artifacts for thousands of years. Preserved embryo. A preserved embryo was found in a dinosaur egg found in Patagonia, Argentina. The difference between this egg and other eggs discovered and analyzed in the past is the nearly intact embryonic skull inside. The skull of this tiny pre-hatched dinosaur showed some features that researchers had not expected. This titanosaur embryo skull, which had never been seen by modern researchers until this discovery, showed two striking features not found in titanosaurs later in life. One of these features was a temporary monoceroid face. This means that it had a horn, or at least a protruding piece of bone, directly on its forehead. The horn was likely used to hatch from the egg when the time came for this tiny creature to develop. This is in contrast to another hypothesis, which said it likely cracked the shell using an egg tooth as other dinosaurs did. This dinosaur also appeared to have early binocular vision, which would change as the dinosaur got older and the shape of the head shifted the eyes to either side of the head, rather like a rhinoceros. Thus, the dinosaur changed its appearance significantly during its lifetime. Carnivorous plant. A team of biologists from the universities of Guelph and Toronto has found that a carnivorous plant species, the northern pitcher plant or Sarracenia purpurea, eats not only beetles but also young spotted salamanders in the wetlands of the Algonquin Park in Ontario. Pitcher plants may have become carnivorous to obtain nutrients, particularly nitrogen, that are lacking in the nutrient-poor marsh soil, says Dr. Alex Smith, an integrative biologist at the University of Guelph. It was the first time a plant was observed evolving into a carnivore. Edition of Shakespeare's last play. A literary historian in Spain has found a rare 1634 edition of one of the last plays William Shakespeare ever put on paper. John Stone, a scholar at the University of Barcelona, discovered the long-lost drama while combing through the library of the Royal Scots College in Salamanca. According to a statement, the two noble kinsmen was hidden in the withered pages of an unlabeled volume of English plays that had been mistakenly filed in the philosophy department. The 386-year-old book was one of the earliest Shakespearean compositions to reach Spain, and it may even be the bard's oldest known work in that country. Written in collaboration with playwright John Fletcher around 1613 or 1614, but not published until 1634, The Two Noble Kinsmen is the last surviving play penned by Shakespeare before his retirement to Stratford-upon-Avon, where he died in 1616 at the age of 52. Most scholars attribute Acts 1 and 5 wholly or largely to the bard, and the three middle acts mainly to Fletcher. Stone writes in Notes and Queries that a person who had travelled to England or Scotland brought back to Spain the collection of 11 plays, all printed in London between 1630 and 1635. Stone adds that at the time, English plays were increasingly associated with elite culture, and Semple, the rector at the time, wanted to stay connected to London's cultural life because of his political ambitions. The Royal Scots College itself is something of a historical curiosity. After the Scottish Parliament banned Catholicism in 1560, the Church sought to ensure a steady supply of priests by establishing seminaries in Tournai, Rome, Paris, and Madrid, according to the college's website. Remains of a 2,000-year-old Roman roundhouse. The remains of a 2,000-year-old Roman roundhouse were found during excavations at Bamborough Castle in Northumberland, England. Archaeologists currently digging at the Bamborough Castle site have discovered that the remnants date back to the end of the Roman era. The remains of the building indicate that it may have been up to 20 meters in diameter and likely belonged to an important member of higher society. Archaeologists working at the site say the find could help shed light on a little-known period in British history, the transition from Roman Britain to Anglo-Saxon England. The roundhouse predates the imposing Bamborough Castle to which it now adjoins. The castle is thought to have been built in the 6th century, at least 500 years after the Roman occupation of Britain. Graham Young, director of the Bamborough Research Project, says the initial findings are groundbreaking, but much more research is needed to truly understand the significance of the discovery. He believes that because of the depth at which the remains were found, they are definitely at least 2,000 years old. One of the most interesting discoveries is an enigmatic stone feature that was unfortunately destroyed after it was dug through for a World War I latrine pit. However, it's thought that this may have been a storage room within the roundhouse where animal skins were kept. Offering table for the deceased deafgee. This round offering table is a rarity. The majority of offering tables are rectangular. Sometimes the table has the shape of the hieroglyph for offering, hetep in Egyptian, a reed mat with a loaf of bread on it. This round offering table from deafgee is also extraordinarily detailed. Deafgee was an official who held prominent titles, known to the king, highly revered by the great god, unique friend, and great of the ten of Upper Egypt. The offering table is made of white alabaster and is 13 centimeters thick. The hetep sign is seen in three-dimensional relief, placed horizontally above the center. Above the sign are two bowls, below them are two small vases and a jug in a bowl. The entire surface is divided into small squares, each containing the name of a dish, a drink, or a detergent. In total, there are over 90 products. In the upper panel are 7 shallow wells, each designed to hold a special consecrated oil. These 7 different oils were used to anoint the cult statue of the deceased. They are precisely named. From right to left, they are festive ointment, laudation oil, balm, Nekenum oil, tuawet oil, high-quality cedar oil, and high-quality Libyan oil. To the right of each little cup, it clearly states again who it is for Defji. There is little left to discover that will leave us astounded or speechless. Or is there? What if there is much more waiting to be found, and only a fraction is known to us so far? Let's find out. Strange creature. A gruesome animal carcass found on a beach in South Carolina in the USA has captured the imagination of international tabloids. Some claim it escaped from an island of monkeys used by the government to test animals for contagious diseases. State wildlife officials, however, say that is far-fetched because the state island is more than 100 miles from where the carcass was found. Officials with the SC Department of Natural Resources believe an opossum or raccoon is a possible explanation, considering the creature's size. The creature had no eyes and a huge set of teeth, puzzling the finder, who found the creature while walking on the beach with her dog. Ancient dwellings in Great Britain. Ancient dwellings in the far north of Scotland called wags are considered the best preserved Pictish houses in Britain. While the term wags colloquially refers to footballers' wives and girlfriends, this is not the case in the far north of Scotland, where a wag is a long house built of stone and inhabited by the Picts, the early inhabitants of what is now Scotland, some 1400 years ago. One of these ancient settlements, known as the Wag of Force, is located south of Wick in Caithness, on the northeast coast of Scotland. But who were the Picts? The Picts consisted of various peoples who spoke Celtic languages and lived in what is now eastern and northern Scotland during the late British Iron Age and early Middle Ages. Their culture is inferred from early medieval texts and the symbols found on carved Pictish stones. Ancient Roman and Anglo-Saxon artifacts. Archaeologists are stunned after discovering a plethora of Roman and Anglo-Saxon artifacts in a burial site in Baginton, next to the Lunt Roman Fort and Coventry Airport in Warwickshire. Two of the tombs are believed to have belonged to a high-ranking officer and a Roman girl between the ages of 6 and 12. The pieces were found during an excavation at a residential site in the summer of 2017. However, many of the items found have only now been officially dated and verified by experts. Warwickshire County Council senior archaeologist Nigel Page, who led the excavation, called it a remarkable discovery. Among the finds was a brooch that was part of a Roman cremation burial of a young girl. Also found was a Gaelic jar, a ring with the effigy of a cicada, and a Frankish vessel from the area of northern France and Belgium. The finds are of inestimable value of historical research. Caral. Caral is considered the oldest civilization in the Americas, developing in the northern half of Peru. Today we can visit the traces of this civilization in the valley of the Supe River. This is located in the province of Barranca, 185 kilometers north of Lima, the capital of Peru. According to archaeologist estimates, the Caral civilization was established between 2600 and 1500 years before Christ. Its origins date back to the late Archaic period in the Central Andes. With an age of almost 5,000 years, it's a contemporary of the civilizations of ancient Egypt, the Sumerians in Mesopotamia, or the Indus civilizations. Thus, it is the first settlement on the American continent. This 66-hectare site was declared a World Heritage Site by UNESCO in 2009. Gold coins from the 17th century. When Shane Comerford's colleagues at Ashcraft Construction found 81 gold coins buried underground, he dismissed them as worthless and even threw a handful away. It was a routine Monday morning refurbishing Cooney's pub, a dilapidated pub on Carrick-on-Sure's main street, and Comerford was more interested in laying concrete than worrying about worthless trinkets. But as his staff brushed the clay off the coins and researched them on the internet, initial excitement spread. The coins had been stacked in a row, likely held together by material that had decayed, and bore the profiles of Charles II, James II, and William III. It's likely all the wealth of one family accumulated over several generations in the second half of the 17th century. But you wonder why and when it was buried, says Eamon Kelly, a representative of the National Museum of Ireland. Or it could be a simple mishap. Grandpa buried the coins but didn't tell anyone where. All the greater then is this lucky find. The Grauballe Man. The Grauballe Man has been shrouded in mystery ever since a local team of peat diggers accidentally discovered his body in the Engelberg Moos bog in 1952 in the village of Grauballe, west of Aarhus. Because of the unique conditions in the peat bog, the body was exceptionally well preserved, even after lying there for more than 2,000 years. The Grauballe Man was, and still is, the most well-preserved bog body ever found in Denmark, and he lived during the pre-Roman Iron Age. For archaeologists and historians, the uncovering of the Grauballe Man was one of unique importance. By examining the body with modern technology, many unknown details about the Iron Age were discovered. Without this unique find, this knowledge might never have come to light. Smith Mansion. It's rumored that Wyoming's vertiginous Smith Mansion was built over a mine shaft or by the hands of a madman as a perverse joke. But the reality is that its builder just couldn't stop building. Located in picturesque Wapiti Valley, the former home of contractor and engineer Lee Smith rises in a seemingly haphazard collection of wooden terraces and stairs. Smith began building the home for his wife and children from logs cut on site. After completing the base house, however, Smith continued to build, adding additional floors and balconies, all from logs he collected in his small pickup truck. Even after his devotion to the building project had led to a divorce, Smith redoubled his efforts, building winding staircases and picturesque terraces on the upper floors. Tragically, Smith fell to his death from one of the upper balconies while working. For years, the Smith Mansion stood empty, but always remained a local landmark, being visible from the street. The ruins of Engelberg. Engelberg Castle was built around 1224 by Count Frederick II of Ferret to guard the entrance to the Thur Valley in Alsace. It was severely damaged during the 30 Years' War and destroyed in 1673 by order of Louis XIV, when its strategic role was no longer valid. The main tower broke into several parts. The main part fell on the side facing the town of Tarn, and this is what is called the Witch's Eye, as it seems to stare at the roofs in the village and the horizon. Today it can be reached by a steep staircase in about 20 minutes or by a walk through the vineyards in roughly twice the time. The effort is worth it as you have a magnificent panoramic view of the valley, the collegiate church, and the town of Tarn. Petrova Gora Monument. The monument of Petrova Gora was erected to commemorate some organized local resistance efforts by ethnic Serbs against the Ustasha militias in the early created Nazi puppet state of independent Croatia. In 1941–42, the resistance groups used the mountains and forests around Petrova Gora as hideouts and bases for their operations. They even had a large military hospital in a remote valley in the forest. At its peak, it was a stronghold with about 15,000 partisans. In the end, however, the Ustasha prevailed in May 1942 after overcoming resistance in Petrova Gora. Hundreds of Serbs were killed or captured and sent to concentration camps, most notably Jasenovac. Since the former partisan camp is a monument to Serb resistance, there was no interest from the Croatian side to do anything for the preservation of Petrova Gora, so it became a victim of looting and vandalism. The visitor center was essentially stripped of all usable materials. The main monument was also partially destroyed, and much of the steel cladding dismantled. Today, only the least accessible parts of the exterior cladding remain. To top it all off, a transmission tower was erected above the monument. It also gives the authorities an additional excuse to officially ban access to the interior. Sex toy from the 18th century. A 250-year-old sex toy was found by archaeologists during an excavation of an ancient toilet in Poland. The 18-centimeter leather dildo with a wooden head was discovered during an excavation in an old school of sword fighting in the coastal city of Gdansk. A spokesman for the National Office for the Protection of Monuments in Gdansk said it was found in the latrine and dates back to the second half of the 18th century. The toy is quite thick and large, made of leather and filled with bristles, and has a wooden tip that is in excellent condition. Ancient dildos have been found on and off throughout time, with earlier discoveries from the Upper Paleolithic most likely being used for sexual pleasure. For thousands of years, phallic objects have been used symbolically to increase fertility and ward off evil spirits. But their use as sexual aids also has a long history. A 28,000-year-old phallus recently found in Germany is believed to be the oldest known sex toy. Phalluses made of stone, wood, leather, and even camel dung have been found in excavations or mentioned in historical texts and paintings. Who doesn't dream every now and then of just setting off and discovering something wonderful? In fact, adventurers and archaeologists keep finding the most incredible things: gigantic crystals, rare diamonds, mysterious grottos, and enchanted places. The abundance of special sights and stories seems to be inexhaustible in our world. We'll now show you 10 of these extraordinary finds and places. Are you fascinated by mysterious things and archaeological discoveries? Then show us with a thumbs up, subscribe to Hidden Worlds, and join us on our journey. Giant crystals in the USA. Crystals are beautiful. People have always felt magically attracted to these special stones. Even the smallest of pieces can truly delight us. But what has been brought to light at Coleman's quartz mine in the USA puts everything else in the shade. Near the town of Jesseville in Arkansas in the USA lies the most productive quartz mine on Earth. Minerals have been mined here on a grand scale since 1943. In recent decades, the operators changed the rules. Instead of just one single corporation, adventurers and hobbyists are also allowed to work here. In 2016, the work paid off for Ron Coleman and his son Josh. They found a giant yellowish crystal nearly 2.5 meters long and weighing 1 ton in the sprawling area. The value of the find is likely to be around $3 million. However, the crystal isn't the record holder by far. That record was set a few years earlier by an almost white crystal found at the same spot. At 3 meters long and weighing 1,400 kilograms, it was worth an incredible $3.5 million. The largest color diamond in Russia. Diamonds are valuable and rare. Even rarer and even more valuable are colored diamonds. There are diamonds that are yellow, pink, blue, or even black. In professional circles, they're referred to as fancy diamonds. They are somewhat smaller than their crystal-clear white relatives, but no less valuable. Collectors and enthusiasts spend a fortune on these colorful pieces. In the northern Russian region of Yakutia, the Alrosa company operates a particularly productive diamond mine. In addition to the white beauties, mainly yellowish diamond varieties are found here. In 2017, for example, 3 fancy diamonds were recovered altogether. The largest of these was a 236-carat yellow-brown rough diamond. The incredibly rare piece measures 47 by 24 by 22 millimeters and is estimated to be 120 to 230 million years old. A treasure trove on the site. Near the town of Elk in Poland, a veritable treasure trove was found on the edge of a road construction site. Amateur researchers took advantage of the earthworks, using metal detectors to search for valuable and rare items, and with success. In fact, around 500 coins from the 17th century were uncovered. Fascinatingly, the coins all come from different regions of Europe. The treasure includes Polish, Swedish, Dutch, Scottish, and Danish coins of various denominations. They likely belonged to a merchant, innkeeper, or mercenary who was traveling here around 1652. The town of Elk used to be located on a well-frequented route between Polish trade centers and Russia. The former owner might have buried them in an emergency and then was unable to recover them. H.L. Hunley, one of the first submarines. If you thought submarines were a World War II invention, you're wrong. In fact, the first submarines were built by the Southern Army during the U.S. Civil War. That was in 1864, and the H.L. Hunley was 12 meters long and 1.17 meters wide. A full 5-man crew squeezed into the mini-submarine. The Hunley actually managed to score a hit. Shortly after attacking the northern ship USS Housatonic off Charleston Harbor, the Hunley disappeared without a trace. In 1995, the wreck was recovered by divers about 6 kilometers off the coast. The amazingly well-preserved remains were brought to a specially established research center. There, the boat is kept in a special basin to protect the wreck from corrosion and decay on land. What destroyed the boat remained unclear. The skeletons of the former crew were all found sitting at their posts, and the Hunley showed no external damage. The mockery of Jesus. Maybe you've dreamt of carrying grandma's gloomy antiques to the store for appraisal and finding out you're a millionaire. That's what happened in the south of France in 2019. Here, an inconspicuous little painting hung in the hallway of an elderly lady's house for years. When she decided to sell the 26 by 20 centimeter wooden panel painting, its true value and origin were revealed. It had once been created by the Italian artist Cimabue from Florence. The mocking of Jesus shows the Messiah in the circle of his tormentors and was painted in the 13th century. How the gold leaf decorated piece came into the family's possession could not be traced back. Regardless, the elderly lady was delighted with the proceeds of the auction. At 24 million euros, it was 4 times higher than the estimated value. Gold treasure instead of a wedding ring. Paul Reynard and Michael Gwynn are avid treasure hunters. When they were on vacation at a friend's house, a farmer in Northern Ireland, he asked the 2 men to find his wedding ring, which had gone missing while working in the fields. The 2 men agreed and began searching with their metal detectors. What they found was not a wedding ring, but instead a gold treasure from the 16th century. Several of the coins showed King Henry VIII, who was particularly known for having his numerous wives executed. The 84 gold coins were estimated to be worth around $120,000. The treasure was shared between them, and since the wedding ring was never found, the lucky farmer will likely invest some of the proceeds towards some new jewelry. Mosley Road Baths, one of the rarest bathing establishments in the world. This unusual bathhouse is one of the most historic sites in the central English working-class metropolis of Birmingham. Opened in 1907 in Edwardian times, it's a building caught between modern steel girder construction and the heritage of the squiggly Victorian era. At the time, the circular halls were considered one of the most modern and functional buildings, designed solely for the enjoyment of the public. In the beginning, the pools were unheated, and only gentlemen were allowed to swim. On special occasions, the pools were covered with boards, and the swimming pool was transformed into a multi-purpose hall. There were dance evenings, concerts, fashion shows, and even private celebrations. The best thing is, this unique swimming pool is still in use today. Of course, ladies are now also welcome to partake in the refreshing water. The Mud House Mansion in the USA. Haunted houses are rather rare in the USA. Nevertheless, they exist or existed sporadically. The Mud House Mansion in the Fairfield County in the state of Ohio was one of them. It was built in 1870. Henry and Martha Hartman bought it in 1919. They lived here until the owner's death in 1930, which is why the building was known locally as Hartman Place. There are many stories about the building. Allegedly, before the Hartmans arrived, an entire family was ruthlessly killed here. Other stories tell of the occupation of the building by a sect who committed mass suicide by hanging themselves. None of this has been proven, however. These and numerous other sinister stories persist in the local community to this day. In 2015, the heirs finally had the allegedly cursed building demolished. Sidaway Bridge in Cleveland. If you ever come to Cleveland in the US, the area around the Kingsbury Run River would be one of your sightseeing hotspots if you love all things creepy and spooky. Built in 1909, the bridge first became a memorial to racial hatred in the 1960s. School children from the African-American neighborhood of Kinsman used the Sidaway Bridge to walk to an elementary school in the white neighborhood of Yatskovo. During the race riots, the boards were ripped out of the bridge and later even set on fire, all to keep black children out of white schools. Around the same time, Kingsbury Run became famous for the Cleveland Torso Killer. He dismembered several people along the short stretch of river and near the bridge. The bridge was never repaired since the attack in the 1960s and is now eerily overgrown with climbing plants as a monument to human madness. The Santa Cristina Fountain Shrine. If you've ever been to Sardinia, you know the culture of the Nuraghi. All over the island, this mysterious people left gigantic stone heaps. The Nuraghi lived in the 11th and 12th century before Christ. It's unbelievable how many of the partly strange stone complexes are still extremely well preserved. However, nothing is known about their purpose. The Nuraghi did not leave any written records, not even traces of pictograms have been found. One of the most fascinating sights of the Nuraghi is the fountain of Santa Cristina. It originally had nothing to do with a Catholic saint, but was only later so named after a nearby church. In fact, the purpose of the basin may be clearly pagan. Enclosed on the outside in undulating ring walls, it descends into the depths via a trapezoidal staircase. Cultural historians see in the fountain a replica of female sexual organs. Seen from the air, this assumption seems to be confirmed. The well likely served fertility rituals and the worship of female aspects of the divine. The basin at depth is oriented so that sunlight shines on the water at the equinoxes and the great lunar solstice, which occurs only every 18 years. This makes the site another early architectural feat and one of the most fascinating archaeological sites in the world. That was it. The colorful cross-section of unique, beautiful, gruesome and surprising discoveries. Doesn't this make you want to grab a metal detector and head out, or maybe dig up your own backyard? What would you like to find there? Let us know. Share your ideas with us in the comments.